Some movies are highbrow, some movies are lowbrow.
Hello, and welcome to the 0th episode of the Highbrow Lowbrow podcast.
I'm one of your hosts, Josh Kirschenbaum.
I'm Cooper Gagan.
I want to be clear, we talked about this. We're not calling it the Highbrow Lowbrow podcast.
Yes.
We're calling it just
It's
Highbrow Lowbrow.
Highbrow Lowbrow, but it is a podcast.
Yes, it is a podcast. It's called Highbrow Lowbrow, but we're calling it just Highbrow Lowbrow because that's cleaner.
Yeah, you can't change it up on me this late in the game that we're not doing a podcast anymore.
Right. Yeah, we're too many episodes in. We've recorded too much. We've spent too much on equipment.
We spent almost nothing on equipment. This is all hand-me-downs.
Awesome. Love it.
But yeah, we're doing this episode because we've recorded some episodes. We just realized that the first couple were not so good, and we wanted to, kind of release them later as lost episodes, maybe, or maybe let them stay lost.
I think they've got some charm to them. I think, I think when we release them a few years down the line, people are going to be like, wow, look how far they've come from such humble beginnings to actual giants of the podcast landscape.
Yeah, which is going to be nice as opposed to, oh my, these first two are pretty rough.
Right. Yeah, it took us a little while to find our sea legs. So we're bringing you this episode where we just want to talk to you guys a little bit about what's the deal with this podcast.
Yeah, so I was going to say the Highbrow Lowbrow podcast, but Highbrow Lowbrow, it's a podcast where each week we pick a theme and then we talk about two movies that fit that theme, one highbrow and one lowbrow.
We are two aspiring screenwriters, former roommates. We've been working in the entertainment industry for almost a decade, I think, at this point.
7 or 8 years, too long.
Yeah, too long, entirely too long. It's annihilated our brains, and so we're going to give that damage back to you guys.
But yeah, and as former roommates and movie nerds, we spent a lot of time arguing about movies, and one time we had an especially heated argument about whether Forrest Gump was highbrow or lowbrow.
The argument spanned days, and I was traveling at the time, I believe. I was like, because I remember being in the airport texting you for that entire flight, and I had connections and shit and everything. And we still aren't sure. We might get back to that at a later episode.
That's gonna be our 200th episode,
right?
We really have to be ready for that.
It's gonna be tough. I think we might need to record that one via Zoom, even just across town.
Oh, so we can't get in a physical fight?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So like you said, what we're talking about is two movies, one highbrow, one lowbrow. We want to dig in a little bit to what the fuck we're talking about when we say highbrow and lowbrow.
For instance, what's a highbrow movie, Josh?
Highbrow movie is fancy poop. Fancy poop.
Fancy poop. Yeah, a lot of the ones we're going to listen to are fancy poop.
Fancy schmancy was what I was trying to say. And I don't know why it came out as fancy poop.
That's I think you're thinking artsy fartsy.
Yes, I think.
And you came up with fancy poop.
I think I had so many silly words trying to escape my head at once, and I ended on the silliest one.
Yeah.
If a movie is artistic, possibly pretentious, has aspiring to be send a great message, be a little something greater, that's something highbrow. Highbrow movies often tend to focus on non-narrative storytelling. They'll explore theme, maybe doing something unorthodox in how it's telling its story.
Yeah, they usually have something to say about the human condition, or I don't know, it has a greater message.
And often more willing to be ambiguous in that message.
Mm-hmm.
More willing to be a little more out there and what kind
harder
of
to watch.
Exactly. Often less accessible. I think the question of accessibility we dig into a lot.
Yeah, and then conversely, lowbrow movies are they're crowd pleasers. They're popcorn movies. They're more concerned with being fun to watch than giving the audience something to think about on the ride home. The ultimate lowbrow, fart jokes. Fart jokes are lowbrow.
But we like fart jokes, and we really want to make this very clear. When we say lowbrow, doesn't mean bad. We mean highbrow, doesn't mean good.
I love a good fart joke. I will laugh every single time.
But only if it's a good fart joke.
Yeah, only if it really has something to say about the nature of farts and what it means to fart.
Or if it's just a good fart well told.
Yeah.
I think that's also...
Sometimes, yeah, you don't have to reinvent the fart. You just fart.
Sometimes a fart can be a wheel.
Yeah.
That joke will make sense by episode 5. Yeah, so that's to circle back, that's the big thing. Is when we're saying lowbrow, we're not saying bad. I think a lot of our episodes you'll find the highbrow movie is the worst one, even though it's trying to be a little more fancy, and the lowbrow one is the better one. Obviously, it's going to change episode to episode. I think there's things that highbrow movies can do that lowbrows can't, and vice versa.
And then there is a weird middle ground where I think highbrow or lowbrowness often comes down to intent. but
Yeah.
there are movies that want to be highbrow and end up being lowbrow.
Yeah, and we disagree on what on
Yeah.
the brow often,
And we are not the arbiters of this because it's a very nebulous term.
right. The only authority we have is that we have these microphones hooked up to this machine that records them. So if you disagree, rate, review, and subscribe.
Yeah, just give us 1-star reviews.
No, 5-star reviews, but like say mean.
But
things
say mean,
around.
yes.
Yeah,
that would work
exactly.
actually pretty well.
Why not?
Yeah. But
Harness
do
the
it.
power of
Say
hatred.
the
Very
mean,
effective.
Roast us in 5-star reviews.
Yeah, so anyway, we're really excited for you to listen to some of the episodes we've got coming up. I think a lot of movies you'll have heard of, maybe some ones you haven't, a lot of fun discussions, a lot of connections you might not have thought of. I think we really made some weird combos, which I think will make for some really fun episodes.
All right. And that's all for the intro.
Goodbye
Forever.